The topic for today's discussion has been displayed on the screen. Know thyself and know God. So, we all want to know God. Why do we want to know God? We have the understanding that God has created the world, that if we know God, you know everything about the creation. If you know everything about the Creator, you will know everything about the created. So that will become comprehensive knowledge. Samagra Vijnana. Then you are known everything. Because instead of knowing about this universe in piecemeal, you want to know everything about the universe. So for that you need to know the Creator. Then everything about the creation will be known. Simple logic. So now the question arises, where is God? Where is God? Different religions believe in a different way. And in other religions, they say that he is somewhere up in the sky, he is in heaven. He is in heaven. So if you want to know God, you have to go to heaven. But in this culture, people say, you know yourself, then you will understand God. You just have to know yourself. Oh, do I not know myself? What do you know about yourself? You know yourself as body and mind. Right? What is the understanding that we have? So if you are the body, if you are the mind, you don't have to say my body and my mind. Why should you say that mind? You possess it. You possess the body, you possess the mind, but you are not the body, you are not the mind. The language that you speak proves that. You are something different from these two, but you don't know who you really are. You have not figured it out, you never bothered to figure it out. So you think you are the body for all practical purposes, right? Oh, what am I if not this body? What am I if not this mind? What other dimension is there in me? But the language that you speak proves that you are different from the body and the mind. You know, great physicists like Niels Bohr, Max Planck, Heisenberg, they all have come to the conclusion that the mystery of the universe cannot be understood without knowing the observer. The full dimension of the observed cannot be had without knowing the observer. Okay? Who is the observer? I am the observer. Max Planck said, the science cannot reveal the total mystery of nature. And that is because, in the last analysis, we ourselves are the part of the mystery that we are trying to solve. The universe may be grand, but it is you who certify the universe. Because we say that the universe exists, it exists. Suppose there is no man to certify the universe. Does the universe exist? It doesn't. Though the scene is grand, unless there is a seer and certifies it. Though there is a sun, if there is nobody to see the sun and to certify it, does the sun exist? It doesn't exist. So though you are a tiny creature, very important because of this, compared to the sun, as a physical object, we are non-entity. What is our body? Small thing, insignificant thing. But you just see the sun, a mid-sized star, so bright, so magnificent, as an object. We are a non-entity, but the objects in the universe are so big and so phenomenal. So, but it's you who certify the universe. Though you are a tiny creature, we as human beings, but we certify. So the seer becomes grandeur. The seer becomes more important than the seen. Though the seen is very vast and phenomenal, if there is no seer, though the drusya is very grand, without drashta to certify it, it is as good as non-existent. So our rishis have understood this, and then they turned their attention inward. Now the battle began. So you have to cross the formidable wall, namely the mind. Then they have gleaned, they have inferred, they have intuitively sensed that there lies something profound beyond this mind. There lies something phenomenal beyond the mind, but to cross the mind is the biggest hurdle. It doesn't yield that quickly because it's very subtle. If it is an object, then you can pick it up and you can put it here and there. You can handle it easily if it is a physical thing. Because it is between spirit and physical. It is neither physical nor non-physical. It is neither physical nor it is spirit. It is in between thought. So to handle it is difficult. So to deal with it, to cross it, is the difficulty. And then they have understood that great sadhana is required, great effort is required to subdue the mind. And the desire to subdue the mind arises only when you intuitively sense that there is the phenomenal, there is this infinite beatitude beyond the mind. Otherwise, though sometimes you feel uncomfortable with your thought, your mind, so sometimes your mind tortures you, gives you all kinds of pain and suffering, but still you don't want to get rid of it. Okay, because you think you are that. So the discomfort comes only from the mind, the pain comes only from the mind, but you don't want to get rid of it because you think you are that. This identification with the mind and the body is so strong. So you don't want to give divorce to your mind. How can I give divorce to my mind? It's mine, it's after all me. No, but that when you sense that there is the reality beyond the mind, there is the spirit beyond the mind, then the desire to conquer the mind arises. So whatever we study in this universe, if you are a scientist, a great scientist, let us say you are a physicist, you are studying physics, you may be using most sophisticated instruments to understand subatomic particles. But you study all that with what? What is the instrument? Mind. Okay, the scientist also uses his mind to study. Maybe he has got little focused mind, concentrated mind, one-pointed mind. So he has better perception than a common man. Common man is highly distracted. A scientist has a little more focus. So he uses fine instruments, sophisticated instruments, to understand the mystery of the universe. He's studying the physical universe, subatomic particles he's studying with the help of his mind. So he has taken for granted that the observer is the mind. And then I have to observe the universe. I have to study the universe. He never questions himself, because the mind doesn't allow us to do that. Mind actually plays the trick on us. So it's a deceptive. The rishis have sensed it. So mind doesn't let us know what we are. So physicists have come to this point that unless you factor in the observer, the true mystery of the observed will never be revealed to you. Now you think there are two things, drashta and drusya, the seer and the seen. Seen, okay, it is there. But you have taken for granted that the seer is mind. There you have made the mistake. There you have made the mistake that the seer is the mind. And so you are studying and you are studying and studying, and universe forever remains a mystery to you. So they have come to the conclusion that you have to factor in the seer also to know the mystery of the seen. To understand the mystery of the universe, you have to know who is watching the universe, who is studying the universe. I am studying the universe. Who are you? Am I the body? Am I the mind? You have come to the conclusion that you are the body-mind, and body is the gross manifestation of the mind, the external manifestation of the mind. You have the sukshma and sthula sarira. Sukshma sarira is the mind and sthula sarira is the physical body. And it is with the help of the sukshma sarira you understand and study things. But that is the ultimate about your personality. You think, you have come to the conclusion. So it's not the mind which studies the universe, it's not the body which functions on its own. There is spirit behind these two, which animates these two. The third dimension of our being, of personality. Every day that happens to us. When you are in deep sleep, the body is dead. You are not conscious of your body. In deep sleep, you are not even conscious of your mind. Only in dream you are conscious of your mind. Dream is happening in the mind. So there is something else which acts as witness to all these three states of our being. This is the wakeful state. When you go to sleep, you have the dream and deep sleep. And all these three states are happening in the mind, and there is that witness. There is that seer which observes these three states. These three states are for the entertainment of that spirit. So mind actually is undergoing these three states. So there must be something else to experience these three states, to observe these three states, to witness these three states. That is our real being. So that comes into our experience only when you transcend the mind. In deep sleep state, you are almost transcending the mind, but that is happening in ignorance and that is happening unconsciously. But if that can happen consciously to you, this transcending the mind, then you are the infinite. Then you are the supreme. Then you have known yourself truly. So Niels Bohr made a great statement that it appears to me that the distinction between the seer and the seen is too arbitrary. That's what the statement he made. So it's not real, the distinction. It's only apparent distinction, he said. He came to the conclusion, but those cultures, to become a yogi is a glorious madness. To sit in meditation is a glorious madness. 2 years together. To experiment in a laboratory is fine. You are recognized by the society. Okay. You will get paid, you will be recognized, people will be happy. If you take up a professorship in a university and you do some experiments in a laboratory, but if you put on a loincloth and sit in meditation, they will consider you are half crazy. But not in this culture. Our rishis just put on a loincloth and they sat in meditation because they wanted to know the true nature of the observer. It is not the mind which observes the universe. There is something more profound than the mind, which acts as the substratum to the mind. And they wanted to grapple with that. They wanted to have the experience of that. And so they turned inward. But mind was not yielding. Then they understood that ego sense and the desire keeps the mind alive. So if I have to kill the mind, annihilate the mind, transcend the mind, I have to let go the ego sense or I have to let go this desire. So let me make myself free from all desires and see what happens to me. Then they made themselves empty of the desire. Mind dropped. Mind cannot survive without desire because it's a ghost. It needs the prop called desire. Sans desire, without desire, it can't exist because it doesn't have a shape of its own. It's like amoeba. It changes shapes and it actually takes shape because of desire. If there is no desire, it just drops. It can't survive. If there is no ego sense, it can't survive. It will die. And it gets merged into the fundamental cause. So then they had experienced the truth, the true sense of being, the true individuality has come into their experience. The true dimension of a personality will come into our experience only then. Then you will not see the seen and the seer. This distinction will vanish for you forever. There is no seen and the seer. The question that why has God created this universe, it doesn't arise in you anymore thereafter. You have known the mystery of the universe once for all. There is no seer and the seen. It is only one homogeneous spirit, one homogeneous consciousness, one homogeneous God. All this is only apparent. All this is unreal. All this is Maya. All this is because of the mind, the fictitious projection that has arisen in consciousness. That has to be gained. That insight has to be gained, not intellectually, by experience. You must make it an experiential reality. For that, sadhana is required, tapas is required. So India is tapo bhumi. So what these physicists, what conclusion they have come, and where our rishis have started their journey. So to know the full mystery of the universe, I have to know myself. Before I want to know God, I have to know myself. When you know yourself, you don't have to know God. You understand it fully. You are God already. You exist in God. You breathe in God. You live in God. You work and see, watch, everything you do in and through God. You are already God, but that God is not in your awareness. He is hiding behind the mind. He is hiding behind the mind. So to transcend the mind, actually, you take this goal up and then actually strive and strive. So does God exist, whether He exists and where He exists, where is He? You don't ask these questions. Just know yourself, then you will know God. So know thyself and know God. So God is so immanent, so close, so fundamental to our existence. But yet, we don't feel, we don't experience, and so far. The other day, a young man came and he was asking me, he said, I have read Vivekananda, I have read Bhagavad Gita, I have read so many books. And now he has asked me the question, Swami, what is moksha? I felt a bit amused. So it's like asking, after reading Ramayana, what is Sita to Rama? So you read Swami Vivekananda, you have read Bhagavad Gita, and now you are asking me what is moksha? I know there are different definitions for moksha in our scriptures. Mokshasya nahi vasosti na gramantarameva va ajnana hridaya granthinasho moksha iti smrutaha. Mokshasya na vasosti. Moksha is somewhere a distant place. It's not like that. It is not a house of its own that you have to travel there. Na gramantarameva va. Not that you have to go to some other distant place to experience freedom. We don't even use the word God here. We use the word mukti, freedom, liberation, enlightenment. Ajnana hridaya granthinasho moksha iti smrutaha. So if you get rid of this ignorance, ajnana, that itself is liberation. There are knots in the heart. That this is mine, that is mine. This I have learned, that I have learned. I, all the time it is coming. That has to go. That is ajnana granthi. Okay, the knot of ignorance must get cut asunder. You must uproot that knot. You must untie that knot. Once that knot is untied, then you will experience the truth. Ajnana hridaya granthinasho moksha iti smrutaha. Ahankaraditan dehan bandhan ajnana kalpitan swaswarupa avabodhena muktamicha mumukshutha. Shankaracharya defines in Viveka Chudamani what is moksha, what is mumukshutha, desire for liberation, desire for freedom. Desire for mukti, what is that? He says. Ajnana kalpitan, ahankaraditan, dehan, bandhan, ajnana kalpitan, swaswarupa avabodhena, mokshmicha mumukshutha. So, swaswarupa avabodhena, by knowing your true nature, what you will achieve? You will get rid of this ahankaraditan, bandhan, ajnana kalpitan. So all these, the ahankara and that attachment to the body, this is all born of ignorance, ajnana kalpitan. So when it will go, swaswarupa avabodhena, when you know yourself, when you know your true being, so this will disappear. So you don't have to get it from somewhere from outside. You are already truth, you are already that, you are already in liberation. But it is not in your awareness, it is not in your experience. Why don't you experience it? Because of this ahankara. The ego sense that is attached to the body and mind is not letting you experience your true self or being. So to experience that, you have to empty the mind, make the mind free of desires. So how can we do that, Swamiji? So you have to do it if you really want God, if you want to know yourself. No, but when Vivekananda went to Sri Ramakrishna touched him. He was arguing. One day he touched him and gave him the experience of truth. And then Swamiji told, actually, what are you doing to me? I have my father and mother. He couldn't digest that experience at that point of time. Preparation is required. Where you are not prepared to let go the I, your problem. Because you will drop that only when you understand that there is something more profound beyond this. If that understanding doesn't dawn on you, and you will hold on to this body and mind, that is the nature of the mind. Nothing in this universe seeks self-annihilation, but you are asking the mind to kill itself. It doesn't. It resists. It resists. So the understanding has to dawn on you first, that there is something more profound, something beyond this ego dictum. Beyond the ahankara lies the infinite. This little ego sense is blocking. That's the vast sun of God, vast sun of truth. There is no comparison possible between the present existence, that existence which is called nirvana. This relative existence is too puny, too petty, and too meaningless if you ask me. There is no rhyme or reason for this universe, Swami says. This mind has no rhyme or reason. It just exists. If you analyze, you understand it. Through contemplation, slowly, you will understand. So you have to study this, you have to understand this, your own mind. And you have to have this desire to conquer it. It will come under your control totally only when you make yourself desireless. As long as there is desire, mind actually will not come under your control. It is your master, and you are its slave. And if you want the mind to become your slave, and you must make yourself empty of all desires, including the desire to live. That is the last test you have to pass. So all other physical desires, all other material desires you have dropped. So you'll be asked to pass the last test. That is, you have desire to live. When you say, I don't have any desire to live, because the desire to live actually is because of the body, right? You think actually you have something to enjoy through the body, so I have the desire to live. But when I don't want to enjoy anything through the body, then the desire to live also drops. Abhinivesha, they say. And that is dropped, and that is the point you attain nirvana. So you just have to fulfill the criteria. In this way, it is perfect science. Spirituality is also perfect science. You have to qualify for that. You have to become eligible for that. We insist on ethical and moral culture because of that only. That helps you to purify the mind. Antakarana becomes purer and purer. Then you will be able to apprehend the truth better. You will be able to intuitively sense. So not just reading books, but sadhana actually is necessary. Spirituality is all about sadhana. It is about perfection. It is about studying one's own self. Knowing one's own true individuality, true personality. Turning inward, going deep into your own being. But many people are afraid to go into their own self. We are afraid to look into our own self. Because there is a ghost, truly, you are right. The mind is the ghost. It frightens you. It frightens many people. So now actually you have fed it. You have been feeding it for so many births. Now it has become so strong and powerful, mighty. So strength is required. Yasa Vivekananda, Nayam Atma pravachanena labhyo, Nayam Atma balihinena labhyo. This Atman, this self cannot be attained by the weak. To make oneself desireless, it requires great strength. Our rishis had that. They were not just, laboratory scientists. Go to a laboratory and mix a few things or use a few instruments and find a truth. To crack the mystery of this is not an easy task. Kaschid dhiraha pratyagatmana maikshat avrutta shakshuhu amrutattvamichan. They were ready to make the highest sacrifice, but let me have the truth. That was their determination. Buddha had the determination. Either I must have truth in this birth or die in the attempt, but I will not yield. Do we see any scientist having this kind of courage? It requires a different courage. It takes a different courage to go deep into one's own self. When Buddha came back to his hometown, Kapilavastu, after enlightenment, Shuddhodana, he saw his son, shaven-headed, saffron-clothed. He was in tears. What sad plight he was thinking. What sad plight my son has come to. And he went to Buddha, his son, and told him actually, has anybody done this before in our lineage? Your grandfather, great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather? Nobody. Everybody was a king. What is this, my son? What is this robe? What is this appearance? Buddha gently replied, maybe your forefathers, none of them were ascetics maybe, but all my forefathers are ascetics only. He told, no, Buddha's forefathers and Shuddhodana's forefathers should be the same, right? Because after all, Buddha was Shuddhodana's son. But Buddha was talking about his previous births, previous existences. Shuddhodana was talking about his father and grandfather and great-grandfather. The connection got dissolved, with your father. When your father passes away, your grandfather passes away, the connection doesn't exist anymore, right? They are all physical relationships. When the body is dissolved, the relationship is dissolved. The soul takes another birth. In this birth only you have come together. The relationship has been formed because of this bodily association. That's all. But Buddha was talking about his previous births. What births actually he had taken, this soul, Buddha's soul, what births it had taken. In many of his previous births, he was an ascetic. He was a sannyasi, striving for spiritual perfection, striving for self-realization. And in this birth, he was born as the son of Shuddhodana, as a prince. So Shuddhodana didn't understand that, what he was speaking. He was speaking about his previous embodiments, previous bodies that he had taken up. He calmly replied, afterwards he understood. How can the man who's sitting on the throne understand the profound experience of Buddha? The profound state of existence that he was in, the profound state of bliss and immortality that cannot be described in words. Impossible. Avang manasa gocharaha. Neither the walk, the speech, nor the thought can ever go near that experience and make it, understandable to you. It has to be experienced, that's all. We eat so many sweets. We eat Mysore pak. And somebody comes and asks, how does it taste like? Oh, can you describe it? No. You have to put Mysore pak into his mouth. Then he will understand what it is. So Nirvana is also like that. It has to be known only through experience. Cannot be described in words. So our problem is like this. We have entered into Padma Vyuha. And we are not finding the exit. Abhimanyu, when he was entering into Padma Vyuha, his charioteers, Sumitra, told, it may not be that easy to come out of it. Maybe it's a conspiracy. Oh, prince, don't enter into that. But Abhimanyu was full of, valor and courage, full of adventurous spirit. He had entered into that. He could not come out of it. We all have entered into this Padma Yuha. We have entered into body and mind means it's Padma Yuha. No easy exit from here. It's very easy for the spirit to descend into matter and thought. But to exit from this is not that easy. Just to make you understand, a bird in a cage, suppose. There is an owner. The owner caught the bird in a forest and brought it and put it in a cage. And he started feeding it. He is very fond of that bird. Every day he nicely feeds it, nicely gives water, sometimes he gives a bath to it. And over a period of time, the bird has completely forgotten its forest life, free life. Because now all these food requirements are being taken care of well and owner loves it. But he has forgotten that earlier how free it was. Now actually it's totally in bondage, in a cage. And the owner actually brought other birds also. They are also caged. And now this bird looks at the other bird in cage and feels happy, and that's also the same condition, right? That is a caged bird and this is a caged bird. And one day this bird happened to see a bird, free bird, which was not caged. It just came there flying and then left the place, again flying freely. And now it was reminded of its previous forest existence, how free it was then, how it was caught by this owner, and how actually it has forgotten its own previous glory. And now I am in bondage. I am caged. And now you struggle for freedom. How you have to struggle for freedom? The bird started flapping its wings day and night, day and night. It stopped eating, stopped drinking water. Then the owner, so fond of the bird, thought actually it would die if I leave it like this. It's not eating food, it's not drinking water. It's flapping its wings constantly, but now it wants freedom, freedom, freedom. It wants liberation. Then the owner understands. And then he opened the cage and let the bird fly. Released it. The Lord will do that for us also, provided you understand the nature of the bondage and long like that. Sri Ramakrishna had that kind of longing. Oh, Mother, reveal thyself to me. This embodied existence, this physical existence, psychological existence, must become oppressive for you. When you feel the limitation horrible and terrible, too oppressive, too unbearable, and then the longing for freedom arises. Now our comfort is, I am caged and you are caged. I am a caged bird, you are also a caged bird. So many are like that, me. Like everybody is the same, more or less in the same plight. So I think this is the only existence. So now and then free birds come, like Vivekananda, Sri Ramakrishna, Ramana Maharshi, Buddha. And then actually we get reminded of our previous existence. We get reminded of our freedom. We get reminded of our true existence, true glory. And then the desire for freedom arises in us. Even otherwise, if old age, disease, and death, you must see as terrible limitations of life. Okay? And now actually we think that death is somewhere very far. There's so much the life has to offer. And that is actually, we don't think about God and about freedom and nirvana. And particularly in our society, Hindu society, we have made actually this nirvana a post-retirement business. Okay? Right? Post-retirement, you have to seek God. You have to read Bhagavad Gita after 60. All the scriptures. In school, if any home today, if your child goes and meditates for 10 minutes, parents, they don't allow. They're frightened, terribly frightened. What has happened to you? What is wrong with you? 10 minutes meditation, you should not do. Dangerous. Dangerous. You might become a sannyasi. Okay. So, forget about attaining freedom. You can't, attain big success in worldly life also. So to become successful in any field of life, if you want to become a good scientist, if you want to become a good sports person, concentration is the key. Without concentration, how you can achieve big things in life? How you can attain concentration without spiritual practices, without meditation, without prayer, without purity of mind, without repetition of God's name? All these sadhanas are not thought. This is the land of spirituality. You see those countries like Japan, Korea, China, how well they are doing. So they train the individuals so well in everything. Japan, Korea, they take the meditation very seriously. All this they have taken from this culture, and we have given this up in this culture. I want big things to achieve, big things to come and happen to you. They don't happen like that. Though we have this much of subject to science of, a man, when it comes to practice, we are nowhere near. Other countries have picked up, they have taken up, but they are doing. But we are not practicing it. You know the reasons, we have discussed this so many times. So the desire for freedom arises only when you see the limitations of life clearly. Death is a terrible limitation. Wise people, how do they see death? They see it as an impending disaster. We are being chased by death, it's following us like a shadow. And they see it as such a huge disaster. And then actually, they see, I must do something to save myself from this impending disaster. And then the thought of God, the thought of freedom, the thought of mukti arises in them, slowly. If death is not an issue for us, we will never think about freedom, we will never think about God. God actually we don't need. It must become an issue for you. And now it seems we have come to the conclusion that anyway we don't know anything about it. Why to break our brains? When we are totally helpless. No, you are not helpless. There is a way. You can conquer death. You can come out of this cycle, samsara. There is nirvana beyond. There is nirvana. There is moksha. There is mukti. And that is our birthright. Everybody must seek. The sooner the better. The why the desire doesn't arise. This is what. You are not finished with your experiences of life. Etu antagatam jananam punyakarmanam. So those people who have exhausted their sin, the sin is over now actually, the merit is started fructifying. Te dvandvamoha nirmukta bhajanthe mam drudavrataha. Antagatam papam jananam punyakarmanam. So they have exhausted their papa, the papa is over. That means the ignorance will get cleared. And then actually the desire for moksha arises in them. Bhishma says to Yudhishthira, Pranayatra manekam cha kalpamanena bharata tat parenaiva anyena etadhi darsanam, says. Pranayatra manekam cha. After taking so many embodiments, so many lives, so many births, so many experiences, the desire for liberation, the desire for mukti arises in the individual. As the Lord says in the Gita, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye. That means you don't feel the oppression of the bondage so intensely. The present existence has not become so unbearable to you. It will become unbearable to you if you don't get sleep for 3 days. But we get nice sleep in the night. After 9, after 10, you are exhausted during the day, and when you go to bed, I sleep. And then when you wake up, you are fresh again. So the energy is sufficient to drive the body and mind for another 12 hours. So 3 days, you just spend your time without taking a wink, without going to bed. 3 days, you try. Then afterwards, you see, you can't watch your movies. You can't actually even feel like eating food. Then you feel, oh, if I'm deprived of sleep, I feel this much of torture. So my mind needs sleep. That needs rest. From where it takes rest, from where it gets rest. What is the other dimension to which actually it has to go every day to nourish itself, to help it support the body? So mind is not self-luminous. Mind is driving the body, but it drives on for 10 to 12 hours. Again, it has to go to its source and draw nourishment and drive the body. So when you know that actual mind is also not self-luminous, there is something beyond the mind, which is actually truly Swayambhu, truly self-existent. That is consciousness, that is soul, that is Atman, that is God. That is your true self. And then the desire to bring that into experience, to know that into experience, by experience, arises. And the journey begins. Journey doesn't mean that actually, moving from place to place. When Swamiji was in Belur Math one day, Swami Vivekananda, a few devotees came to see him. Another monk there told Swamiji, some devotees had come to see you. And Swamiji said, okay, let them in. And they went to Swamiji, and with great excitement, they told, Swamiji, we had been to Kedarnath. It had been our long desire, we could fulfill our desire, they told. Oh. So they were so happy that they made, the journey and they could complete the pilgrimage. And then Swamiji remarked, yes, spirituality is a journey, but it's not a journey from Calcutta to Kedarnath, but it's a journey from brute man to Buddha man. Evolution has to happen here. A man who is stuck at the material level, at the level of matter, has to become spirit. Swamiji beautifully says actually the progress of civilization is, no, not this. His statement is, what is human civilization? He gives a definition. Civilization means progressive reading of spirit into matter. Now we see the world as matter, this body as matter, thought as matter, a subtle matter. Thought actually is perceiving the matter, the gross matter, the physical matter. Progressive reading of spirit into matter. Progressive means gradually you should learn to see matter also as manifestation of the spirit, nay, as spirit itself. A point will come when you experience the truth, you don't see anything physical in this universe. Everything you see as consciousness. That was what Sri Ramakrishna had experienced when he had that Mother Kali's vision. Everything got melted into something oblivious, everything homogeneous. The physical matter, the solid walls disappeared for him. Was it actually fiction? No, he was fully conscious at the time. He wanted to know the truth, he wanted to know God. He had panted and pined for that experience. He wanted Divine Mother to show, give me darshana, show me, do you really exist? Then she showed her true form. Then he came back from that experience. Though he started looking at the world, now actually the perspective got completely changed. It's no more the same world. Matter is not matter, it's also spirit. Then why do we see it as matter? Because there is tamas in my mind. Because there is still desire in my mind. My mind projects matter out there, but there is no matter. It is only consciousness, it is only God. It is only the absolute and nothing else is there. So there is distinction between the seer and the seen. The distinction between the mind and there is a matter. These are all actually fictitious distinctions, they are not real. And we understand that only after experiencing the truth. So for that experience, you have to long, you have to strive, you have to have vairagya, renunciation, you have to have purity. That cultivating this renunciation is not just a simple job. It doesn't happen all of a sudden, though God is very close to us. You have to prepare the ground, prepare the mind. So does God exist? If you want to know it, intellectually you cannot know. You have to have sadhana, engage yourself in sadhana. The last Guru Purnima also I told the story. Janaka went to Ashtavakra. He was a very brave king, a man of total detachment. Though he was sitting on the throne absolutely unattached to anything mundane. A king with total detachment. A perfect man of renunciation. He went to Ashtavakra. How much time does it take to give enlightenment to me? I want to have self-realization. Ashtavakra told him, as much time as is required to mount a horse. Oh, in such a short span I can have liberation. Yes, Ashtavakra said. But what will you give in return for that? Ashtavakra asked Janaka. He said, I will give my kingdom. Ashtavakra says, what I will do with your kingdom? Then Janaka, I will give my life for that. Now, what I will do with your life? Then what shall I give? Janaka asked Ashtavakra. Can you give your sense of agency? Sense of doership? You keep saying, I do this, I do that. Can you give that I? Can you give that ego sense? Janaka says, yes. Fine. The conversation ended there. And now Janaka was about to leave. And he said, herewith I go. He was about to mount the horse. Ashtavakra stops him. Who is going? Janaka says, I am going. But you have given that I to me, he says. You can't just go like that without my permission. Ashtavakra said, you must say, I want to go, I want to mount the horse, if it pleases Ashtavakra. You surrender your I to me, and you can't use it just like that now. I who have control over your I. So your I you have given to me, and you have to have permission when you want to do anything hereafter. That is surrender. Absolute surrender, total surrender to the divine. I am only an instrument, as Sri Ramakrishna would say very often. It's mother actually. This instrument totally belongs to mother. She does what she wants to do it. No I, no ego sense of his own. She is operating this machine. This machine belongs to her, the consciousness. That is total surrender. We have to have that kind of attitude. But we surrender, but total surrender is, very difficult. Absolute surrender. Whatever may happen actually, her will, my mother's will, that's all. No compliance. When you reach that point of surrender, you become one with the divine. So to drop this sense of agency actually is spirituality. So not many are prepared to do that because we have desires. We have many desires. This is the reason actually God doesn't come into our experience, though He is very close, immanent. We do everything in and through the Spirit, in and through the Lord. We don't get the experience of it because of this. absolute surrender, unconditional surrender to the divine. When this lower I is dropped, that's cosmic I, the true individuality, true personality blossoms, then you are an enlightened being. You are a Tathagata, you are a Buddha. An individual who has transcended Buddhi is Buddha. Yes, transcended Buddhi is Buddha. So that is enlightenment. Swamiji says, religion is the force that raises the brute unto man and man unto God. I will replace the word religion with spirituality because the word religion has got some negative connotation. So better to use the word spirituality in place of religion. Swamiji liberally used the word religion because it didn't get that contaminated at that point of time. So people ask actually what is the difference between religion and spirituality. So in India we never had religion, we have only spirituality. It's quest for truth, it's quest for God. Just as the physicists actually explore the physical universe, or rishis have explored the subjective universe. Today you look at the world, all suffering is happening, not because people don't have the basic necessities of life. The suffering is happening because they don't have control over the thoughts and emotions. Okay, now actually the focus has started. All these days, all these years, we have focused so much on the external, manipulating matter, creating machines and technology, fine. In the process, you have neglected the subjective. Because we carried our civilization forward with the understanding for man to make himself or herself happy, we need to have things, comfort, basically, accessories of life, gadgets, appliances. We thought they would make us happy. So we have focused on that, the objective universe. So what are the physical universe? Then we started exploring it. How can we make the life more comfortable for man? This is all fine. Now every gadget, every comfort has come. We don't have to manipulate matter anymore. Enough of technology. Now the suffering has not gone. Suffering should have gone if actually happiness is a condition of physical things. Happiness is actually related to physical things. Suffering should have gone totally by now with the kind of technology that we have created, but the suffering has not diminished. Rather, it seems to have increased because desires have multiplied, because there are so many things available. One thing, the need for money has gone up. Another thing, so the competition has gone up, so stress and anxiety. Those words that people who lived 50 years back, 100 years back did not even use. They did not even use words, but these words we have coined. That means now we are able to understand that happiness actually is something to do with the mind as such, is not much to do with the physical things. Now it's a time we focus on the subjective science. Otherwise, if there is no ethical culture, if there is no moral culture, if there is no spiritual culture, no spiritual practices, our own thought actually will torture us to death. What is depression? Okay. What is stress? Our own thought actually is torturing us, right? What is a negative thought? What is the source of negative thought? Where there is no love in the heart, when our heart becomes barren, not only negative thought will come out of that being. And there is full of love, prema vikasa, hridaya vikasa. Where Swamiji says expansion is life, contraction is death. Expansion of consciousness, expansion of your heart. Feeling, it must be nurtured. In our education system, there is no focus on nurturing the feeling. So child, you help somebody else, at least in America, far better in school actually, they give credits. If you do some social service, they use the word social service. They don't understand karma yoga and other things, it's okay. But at least actually the society should be benefited. The society which is around you should be benefited by you. That's how actually you need to define your existence. And so they give credits for that, and this child gets some joy, and child gets a taste of selfless service and giving some service to the society. We, such an advanced spiritual society and spiritual civilization, where we have exemplary examples like Sibi and Dadichi, Chimutavahana, Bali, who would sacrifice their lives for the sake of others. And today actually, we have created what kind of world, what kind of society. So why actually the child should be taught all these things? So he will understand that joy comes by helping others. Joy comes when you serve others. Joy comes when you pray to God, when you surrender the ego. Joy comes when you listen to a divine bhajan, because you are worshipping the Lord, you are eulogizing the Lord. These are actually the practices which make you happy. This is all subject to science. There is very less focus. And then people they don't want. Ethics and morality cannot be preached now. They said that we have come to the conclusion that they are not that important. They are important if you want to know God. If you want to know God, they are important. So you may have everything under the sun, but you don't have any ethical and moral culture, let us say. What happens? Nothing happens. You won't be able to live in peace. Why? Your thoughts won't be under your control. Your thought only will actually turn against you. Your own mind will turn against you. That is the reason these things are important. And then we have made them optional in education system. Values are also important. Not values also are important. Values are only important. Character alone is important. Sri Ramakrishna gives the example that is. Otherwise, whatever the things that you acquire from this world, it's like adding 0 to 0. Without that character, without that spiritual culture, without bringing God into the world, without bringing the spiritual quest into the world, you may have everything under the sun. Still, you are empty from within. So, to enrich oneself from within is the objective of life. That is spirituality. We are adepts, we are experts, we are super rich in this kind of knowledge. But it is not available to the people, to the population at large. It's not given, it's not made mainstream. Why? Secular country. We take pride in that. Sanatana Dharma is by nature secular. We talk about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world is one family. What can be a greater secular idea than this? Why you needed specially secularism again? The whole world is one. God exists in every being, including subhuman species also. That is our understanding of life. Where is that expansion? I am for myself. Why this kind of corruption has come into our society? Because we are not taught spiritual values. Time-tested spirituality. How much of tapas the rishis have done to give this knowledge to us. The highest knowledge about life, complete understanding. Today there is so much of confusion in spite of all the things that we have. So many lectures, so many books, everything is available for everybody. But everybody is confused. So many doubts. Doubt. Some say Rakshasa. Sri Ramakrishna, Swamiji describes Sri Ramakrishna as some say Rakshasa Nasa Mahastra. Is a weapon which killed the demon of doubt. No confusion, no? The other person, the young man who studied Vivekananda, studied Bhagavad Gita, and now he asks me what is moksha. Why this confusion? If we don't understand what is moksha and what is freedom, who else will understand? Who else has the capacity to understand? Which other civilization, which other race? It is time we focus on the subjective sciences. Happiness is a state of mind. It has nothing to do with the world. Kaupinavantam kalu bhagyavantam. Individual who has just only a loincloth is the wealthiest man in the world. Inwardly super rich. He enjoys the highest bliss and highest happiness. Lesser the material things, the better. Minimum things we have, but don't crave more than that. Focus on this. Enrich yourself from within through spirituality. There is no competition here. Everybody can do that. And everybody can have nirvana. Everybody can attain immortality. Not that only little is there and it can be given only to few people. Everybody can aspire for it and everybody can get that. That is a birthright. So know thyself and know God. Know yourself, know who you are truly, and then your quest for God ends if you know yourself truly. God is within us. He is operating us. He is our real personality. There is no distinction between you and God. The distinction is only apparent. It's not real. It is because of Maya we feel the separation from. That Maya is this mind. Drop the mind and experience the truth. We shall stop here for today. We shall meditate before we disperse for Arati for 2 minutes. Om.